Hey everyone, we're here at the Make Music booth and Alfred Music booth at the Midwest Clinic 2022. With us is Robert Sheldon. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
Thanks. So, I'm very curious with composers, what inspires you to compose?
Deadlines are always good, seriously, every piece is different. The way I look at it, after you've written your first 300 pieces, you need some inspiration. So it really depends on what you are trying to say, what you want to communicate. And I've been very fortunate in that the majority of things that I write are on commission. So there's usually somebody telling me what the inspiration is. Like, we want it to be based on this, or refer to that, or include this idea. And all of those things have been fascinating because I could never think of all that kind of stuff. I mean, they provide me with all kinds of really wonderful ideas about things to be able to project through the music. And then I will take their idea and do some research on it, and usually that takes me in some different interesting directions. So that pretty much inspires it. Now, sometimes they give you nothing. We want a piece, whatever you want it to be. And that can be frightening too, because now what, But when that happens, I'm usually interested in something random, and it could be something in literature, it could be something in science, it could be something it could be anything, travel, people, places, things. But I'm usually kind of interested in something random at the moment, and whatever grabs my attention, then I just go with that and do some research and come up with a way to be able to communicate it musically, hopefully.
So do you always start with an idea and develop a melody off of it, or have you ever just started to write and then the theme kind of comes out of that?
No, I don't know that. I think I always have an idea. It may just be a feeling or a mood or a color or, there's usually something. Otherwise, it'd kind of be like if you were a novelist. It's like, I think I'm just going to write some words until a story comes out. I can't do that. I have to have some idea of even if it's just how I'm feeling at the moment, to be able to get started.
That makes sense. Do you ever hit writer's block?
Oh, yeah. And, it's interesting. When it happens to you, it's a lot different than when someone contacts you and say, I have writer's block. How do I get past this? And I always have an answer for them, So I've kind of learned to take my own advice on it, which is, if you get to a place where nothing's happening, I find for me, it's usually because of too much pressure I've been putting on myself, either to meet a deadline or to get something accomplished. And so what I do is I think, I have forgotten the most important part of this is supposed to be fun. So I'm just going to do something for fun. I'm going to put this project away and I'm just going to write something for fun. And in a few minutes, suddenly it's like, wait a minute, this is a great idea. Let me get this back again. And then I just start to roll. So that's how I escape it.
So speaking of fun, is there a specific ensemble type that you think is the most fun to write for, and that's kind of what you gravitate towards when you're just doing for fun, or are you pretty evenly?
I'm pretty open with that. Obviously, anybody that knows my music knows that the vast majority of it is for concert band. I've done string orchestra, I've done full orchestra, I've done chamber ensembles, I've done choir, but the vast majority of it is concert band. And I'm comfortable in that world, but it's fun to be able to stretch out and do other things too. So yeah. I'm happy. Basically, if you're looking at a concert band, for example, you have a lot of choices within that. Are you going to write for the super difficult advanced college wind ensemble, or are you going to write for these kids just learned how to put their instruments together last week? And the differences in those ensembles are really extreme. So I always look at it that you're still writing music. It's just that with these little kids, you get to use the 6 Crayola box. And with this ensemble, you get the 124 Crayola box. Yeah. And it's really the same way with other ensembles. It's like, I have some different colors to choose from. I have more options. But it's all music, and it's all expression, and it's all communication, and hopefully it's all joyful in some way.
Have you ever had an ensemble that's just strange or an interesting combination that you just wouldn't expect that you were ever going to write for?
No, I've certainly conducted my fair share of
Sure.
those. I mean, and not that they've been good, bad, and different. I mean, it's just like I can recall just hearing you say that off the top of my head, an ensemble that had a rather small instrumentation, but also had 7 bassoons.
Wow.
And it was like conducting a forest. There were like trees throughout the whole ensemble. But they were all good players. It was just, who's ever heard of that,
Yeah.
So you do run into some unusual instrumentation at times, but I've never had I have had requests. For instance, we want to commission you to write a piece for our band, but we don't have any tuba players or bass clarinets or bari saxes or bassoons. And we only have 1 trombone player.
Wait.
Like, how are we going to get a bass line going here? But you find a way. You make it work. So, in a way, although there are restrictions involved in unusual ensemble instrumentation, they also kind of spur on some creativity because you still have to find a way to get it done. And there are ways, but as a result of that, you can actually find yourself being encouraged to be even more creative. So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's great.
For sure. Is there an educator, a composer, a musician who's had a really lasting impact on you?
Oh, sure. All my teachers, the ones that actually I spent a good deal of time with as a member of their ensembles, they've all contributed so much. To me, I always look back on, there were 3 people I wanted to study with in college, and they were all at the same university, fortunately. So I went to University of Miami, and Frederick Fennell was my conducting teacher and my band director. Alfred Reed was my theory teacher and my arranging teacher, and Clifton Williams was my composition teacher. And those 3 have had an incredible lasting effect on me. Although, when I got my master's degree at University of Florida and Richard Bowles was my composition teacher, he was the one who took all the things I had learned from those wonderful, legendary people and taught me how to channel it into my own voice. So Richard Bowles, he still sits on my shoulder and talks to me when I write every day, and I will be forever grateful for having that opportunity.
Great. And just one last question. For any young composers, starting off composers, students who want to get into the game, do you have any just general advice for them?
Well, first of all, write all the time. Write for anybody and write all the time. And it doesn't always have to be, I think one of the one of the challenges that that some younger writers have is they all want to write Carmina Burana. So you need a cast of thousands to do the piece. It's like, yeah, that's not probably going to happen ever, maybe, but probably not. So write for reasonable ensembles, write for reasonable level difficulty. What you want to do is write something that, going back to Richard Bowles, when I wanted to take lessons with him, I went and I had an interview with him, and he said, just bring me some scores of things you've written and some recordings. And after what I'm sure was a very painful 45 minutes, he said, your first project will be to write a grade 3 piece of concert band music. And I said, I'd understand. And he said, that's your assignment. I said, but why? And he says, that's your assignment. And he actually got me to say, but I can write things that no one can play. And he said, I know, I've been listening to that for the last 45 minutes. I think you have a voice, I think you have something to say, you just need to write it so that people can actually play it and enjoy it. And that was one of the most valuable pieces of advice. And by following that advice, it led to publication. And that has been an amazing thing. So that would be my advice to young composers. Write things that people can play, write as much as you possibly can, be creative, be original, and come up to Midwest and say hello. I'd love to hear what you're doing.
Great. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us
Sure,
today.
it's a pleasure. Thanks for asking me.